Today I wanted to talk about PDK 911s versus manual transmission 911s. I've been lucky enough that my friend Greg has brought along his beautiful Guards Red 911 Carrera, and we're going to put it up against my Carrera 4S, which of course has a manual transmission. One of the things I like about Greg's 911 is that he's left the 911 Carrera on the back. Most of the time I find that when people buy the base model Carrera, they take this off, almost like they're ashamed of the fact that they bought the base model car, when in fact the base model is one of the best models in the range in my mind. Anyway, today what we're going to do is I'm going to take both cars for a drive. I'm going to talk about some of the special features of the PDK and some of the features of the manual transmission, and then we're going to compare how they perform. Okay, so let's start here in Greg's car, which has got the PDK, and you might think because I've got the manual transmission I'm going to run down PDK, which is just not the case. I had PDK in my last 911. It is an amazing transmission. What is PDK? Well, PDK is Porsche's torque for dual clutch gearbox. And a dual clutch gearbox is not an ordinary torque converter automatic. It's actually two input shafts with constant mesh gear sets and synchronizers, much like a modern manual transmission, except for both gear sets have their own multi-clutch pack. And so the car pre-selects the next gear it expects you to be in. And with PDK, it really reads your mind. Like right now, I'm cruising along, I'll put it in sport mode. It's in sixth gear. If I put my foot to the floor suddenly, it jumps to third. It jumps to third instantly. It is so impressive. There's no way I can do that as quickly in a manual gearbox. PDK reads your mind like no other automatic gearbox can. It's incredible. And so there are many advantages to having PDK, which is why more than 80% of Porsche sports cars have PDK in them. The first and probably the biggest, of course, is that PDK just simply makes the car faster. In the Carrera 4S, like my car, it can shave more than half a second off the 0 to 60 time just having PDK. And of course, when you're on a racetrack, it's one less thing to think about. The car's doing most of the changing for you, unless of course you want to change manually yourself. And speaking of changing manually yourself, in the second generation 991, they've changed around the way the manual mode works. So now you push up to change down and you pull back to change up, much like most other sports cars. It was reversed in the 991.1. But in manual mode, as you can see, the changes are just instant. It is incredible. And really that's the second big thing about PDK, is that it is easier to use. Anyone can drive a PDK and drive one fast. So the third thing that makes PDK so great is better fuel economy. Despite having pretty much the same gear ratios as the manual transmission, you'll notice that this car is always in 7th gear whenever it gets the chance, whereas the manual transmission, you hardly ever get into 7th gear. So, you know, this car is working to give you the best fuel economy. PDK also has a coast mode, so when you're taking it easy and you're not giving the car any power, it will actually disengage both clutches and you'll see the revs drop off to nothing. There it goes now. You can actually manually engage coast mode anytime with the PDK transmission. Most people don't know this, by simply pulling both the gear change levers towards you at any time. So if I drive along now in 5th gear and then pull the levers towards me, you see it drops into coast mode, which is basically the same as neutral. And you can do that anytime with the PDK. So the fourth benefit of PDK, of course, is that you can get it with launch control. Launch control, of course, needs the Sport Chrono Pack, which this car doesn't have, but of course launch control allows you to get perfect launches every single time and cut that 0 to 100 time by another half second often. The fifth benefit of PDK, of course, is that it's better suited to these turbocharged engines. Because you're not letting off the throttle between gear changes, the boost can stay on, and you get even more performance out of these engines than you do with the manual transmission, which of course you have to take your foot off the gas between gear changes. And the sixth and final benefit of PDK, of course, is lower maintenance costs. The clutches in the PDK should last the lifetime of the car in most cases, unless you really, really abuse it. So here we are back in my car with the manual transmission, the unpopular manual transmission. And unlike the 6 benefits that I listed with the PDK, the manual transmission really only has 2 benefits. First one being, of course, it's cheaper. It's cheaper at the moment, although the cost of the PDK keeps coming down with each generation. But right now, it's $3,200 savings if you get the manual transmission. But really the number one reason for getting a manual transmission, and really the only real reason for getting a manual transmission, is that it is a more engaging transmission to drive with. You are actually driving your car. It just makes driving more fun. But I understand it's not for everybody. Obviously, everyone gets the PDK, so few people get the manual. But I'm super glad that I got the manual. It doesn't make my car any faster, but it just makes my car more fun to drive. So I would definitely get the manual again, even though there are so many advantages to the PDK. And with that said, there's also a bunch of little quirks about the manual transmission that people might not realize as well. The first being, there's a rev limiter when you put the car into reverse. Even if you put your foot to the floor with it in reverse before you release the clutch, it will only allow you to rev about 2.5 RPM so that you don't damage the car. Once you've let the clutch out though, you can go as fast as you like in reverse. The second is a lockout of gears. So for example, if you are in third gear and you go to change to fourth, and then you go to change to fifth, it locks seventh out. So you can't jump straight up there. It'll just go straight to fifth, then sixth, and then you can go to seventh. So it locks out gears that it thinks you shouldn't be going to, which I don't mind. It certainly made it easier to learn a gearbox that has 7 gears. The next little quirk, which is the little manual shift assist gear thing here, shows you what gear you're in and shows you when you should be changing. So if I change into second here, put my foot down, it helps show you where you need to be changing the gears, which is pretty cool. And the final quirk, and my favorite quirk of course, is the rev matching, which you need to have the Sport Chrono pack, and you need to have the car in Sport or Sport Plus mode, and then whenever you change down gears, it'll rev match for you. Makes it appear like you know what you're doing, even if you don't. The only downside I find to having a manual transmission is that people write disconcerting things about the way I hold the gear stick. And finally, we're going to do a very quick drag race from 20 miles an hour to 70 miles an hour. Greg's car is going to have the advantage of having PDK, which will probably get him off the line quicker. And my car is going to have the advantage of 50 horsepower more, but the disadvantage of a fairly incompetent manual driver at the wheel. Okay, this is second gear I'm in, and ready, 3, 2, 1, go! He's got the jump on me. So that was pretty interesting. He actually had the jump on me because, you know, the PDK is so fast. Even with my 50 horsepower more, I have to let the gas off to get between those gears, and it takes so much longer for me to change gears, so he gets the jump on me. Of course, once he gets a bit faster, I pull away because of the extra power of this car. But yeah, PDK is so fast.
Hi, this is Nick Murray. I lost a lot of weight, I lost all my hair, and I speak with a funnier accent. So I'm having a hard time keeping up with Nick. Just shifting the gears is a lot more involving. Just one more thing you gotta work with. But it's also very rewarding. Nick is now probably talking about how fast the shifts are, how smooth they are.
See where the cop was?
I did not see a cop.